Have you ever had a moment in the morning where something just didn't feel quite right? Maybe your chest felt a little tight, or your balance seemed a bit off, but you shrugged it off and went about your day. After all, you've lived through much worse, right? But what if I told you that some of the smallest signs, the ones we tend to ignore, might be the body's way of crying for help, a last whisper before something serious happens? Let me tell you about Mr. Quang, a 71-year-old retired teacher who lived just outside the city in a peaceful little village surrounded by rice fields. He was known as Quang to his neighbors. Always generous with advice, always walking his dog before breakfast, and always up by 5 a.m. He wasn't just admired for his discipline, he was the picture of healthy aging, or so we all thought. One morning, just as the sun was peeking over the hills and the dew was still fresh on the grass, something changed. He stood up a little too fast from his bed, felt a sharp wave of dizziness and stumbled slightly. But he brushed it off. "Just getting old," he muttered to himself, chuckling. Then without eating, he laced up his shoes, took his usual walk, and stopped midway to pick weeds from his little garden patch. That's when it happened. A sudden collapse. No warning. No pain. Just silence. By the time help arrived, his heart had already given out. The news shook the whole village. Not because it happened, but because it happened to someone who did everything right. And that's why this story matters. Because sometimes, the most dangerous habits are the ones we've gotten used to. The ones we never question. So today I want to talk to you about those seemingly harmless morning routines that could quietly put your life at risk. This isn't about fear. This is about empowerment. Because what happened to Mr. Quang doesn't have to happen to you or someone you love. Let's begin with something simple. Skipping breakfast before doing physical tasks. Many seniors say, "I'm not hungry in the morning," or "I just want to get some movement in first." But here's the truth. Your body is waking up from a long period of fasting and repair. Your muscles, your heart, your brain. They're all in recovery mode, running low on fuel. And the older we get, the more sensitive our systems become. Imagine trying to mow the lawn with barely a drop of gas in the tank. That's exactly what your heart is doing when you head into activity without a little nourishment. Your blood sugar is low, your blood pressure is adjusting, and your heart is trying to pump faster while you haven't given it the resources it needs to keep up. That's a recipe for fainting, heart arrhythmias, or worse. And yet, this habit is so common. Many of us were raised to believe that getting straight to work is virtuous. Eat later, work now. But at this age, what once made us productive can now make us vulnerable. Mr. Quang's collapse wasn't random. It was a direct consequence of not listening to the signs. You don't need a big breakfast. Just a light, energy-giving snack can be enough. A banana, a slice of toast with peanut butter, a small bowl of warm oatmeal. It's not about filling your belly. It's about telling your body, "I care about you, and I want to help you succeed today." Now let's talk about what happens when you jump out of bed too quickly. I know it sounds small, even silly, but the truth is, your circulatory system slows down while you sleep. Your blood pools in the center of your body. So when you suddenly sit up or stand, your brain might not get enough blood fast enough, causing dizziness, blurred vision, or that spinning sensation that can send you straight to the floor. Have you ever felt that dizzy spell in the morning and had to grab the edge of the bed or lean on a wall? That's orthostatic hypotension, a temporary drop in blood pressure that's common, especially in older adults. Most times it passes quickly, but for some, it's the beginning of a very dangerous fall. Falls are not just a scrape on the knee at this age. They can be life-altering. Broken hips, spinal injuries, or even brain trauma. And the tragedy is, many of them are entirely preventable. If only we had taken 10 seconds more, just 10. So tomorrow morning, when you open your eyes, pause. Stretch a little in bed. Wiggle your toes, flex your ankles, roll your shoulders gently. Let your body wake up with you. Then sit up slowly. Let your feet touch the ground and stay seated for a minute before you rise. These few seconds are not wasted time. They are investments in your safety, your independence, your life. I want you to think of your mornings as sacred, not rushed, not careless. Sacred. This is your time. a chance to thank your body for making it through the night, a moment to honor your health, and maybe, just maybe, prevent a silent tragedy like the one that took Mr. Quang from us too soon. There's one more overlooked moment I want to talk about, and it happens in the most private part of your morning, the bathroom. Most people don't realize it, but straining during a bowel movement, especially first thing in the morning, puts enormous stress on the heart. When you hold your breath and push hard, you're doing what's called the Valsalva maneuver, and it can temporarily drop your blood pressure, then cause a sudden spike as your body reacts. For someone with heart issues, that can be catastrophic. Think of how many seniors are already dealing with constipation, high blood pressure, or irregular heartbeats. Add in morning dehydration, and you've got a perfect storm, all triggered by one moment of force. That's why I always say, never rush. Use a footstool to raise your knees. It makes things easier. Drink warm water first thing when you wake up to get things moving naturally. Eat fiber-rich foods like pears, prunes, and whole grains. And most importantly, relax. The bathroom should never be a place of tension. Now I know, none of these things sound dramatic. They're not headline-grabbing. But that's the point. The real dangers don't scream at you. They whisper. They creep in quietly. And often they wait for the one moment when your body is most vulnerable, right after you wake up. So, if you've made it this far, I want you to take a deep breath and ask yourself, what can I change in my mornings to protect the years I still have? Because you do have time. You have the power to rewrite your habits, one gentle step at a time. And if you found this message meaningful, if it reminded you of someone you love, or even helped you reflect on your own routines, please leave a comment and let me know. Just say, I'm here, so I know we're walking this journey together. After Mr. Quang passed, people began talking, not in whispers, but in regretful tones. He looked fine yesterday, someone said. He never complained, said another. That's the haunting part about growing older. The body doesn't always shout when something is wrong. Sometimes it just gives you small, quiet signs. And if you've spent a lifetime brushing off discomfort, you might not notice until it's too late. And so the question becomes, how do we spot the signs that matter? Let's begin with one of the most underestimated ones, unexplained fatigue in the morning. I'm not talking about the grogginess from waking up. I mean that kind of exhaustion where you sit on the edge of the bed and feel like it takes everything in you just to stand up. Or when brushing your teeth feels like a task you need to rest after. Now some might say, that's just old age. But let me tell you something. Aging doesn't mean losing all your energy. A sudden shift in how your body handles mornings, especially if you used to be spry, can be your heart telling you it's working too hard. When your heart isn't pumping efficiently, it can't deliver enough oxygen to your muscles and brain. And you feel it most when you first wake up because your circulation is at its slowest. Mr. Quang's wife, Mai, later mentioned something quietly. He sat longer than usual on the bed that morning, said he felt heavy in the chest but didn't want to bother me. That sentence has stayed with me. Heavy in the chest. What does that even mean? In many older adults, heart attacks don't start with stabbing pain like we see in the movies. They often begin as pressure, fullness, or vague discomfort, especially in the morning when blood pressure rises and the heart is under stress. Add in dehydration, skipped breakfast, or emotional tension, and the risk only climbs higher. Here's another quiet but telling sign: morning nausea or stomach discomfort. Most people would never connect that to heart trouble, but it's more common than you'd think, especially in older women. A slight queasiness, maybe some indigestion, and we chalk it up to a bad meal or sensitive stomach. But sometimes, it's not about the stomach at all. It's your body trying to reroute blood away from your digestive system because your heart needs more help. Mr. Quang had no idea that the bloating he mentioned a few days before, the one he brushed off as too much ban chung, might have been a signal. But hindsight always sees clearly, doesn't it? Now let's talk about shortness of breath after light activity. Not after running upstairs or chasing a grandchild. Just from walking to the bathroom, tying your shoes, or bending over to pick something up. If you suddenly notice that you need to pause more often, or your breathing gets shallower, or you need to sit right after standing, that's not something to ignore. Your lungs and heart are best friends. When one struggles, the other tries to compensate. But after 60 or 70 years, even the strongest pair can get tired. And when that happens, your body sends signals. Not always in pain, but in discomfort, effort, and the need to slow down. Don't see that as weakness. See it as wisdom. Your body is speaking. Listen. I remember one of Mr. Quang's neighbors, Uncle Hai, saying, "Sometimes I feel breathless just carrying the laundry out to dry. But I thought it was just this heat." And yet, that heat, combined with mild dehydration and unacknowledged heart strain, was putting extra pressure on his system. He eventually went to get checked, and it turned out he had early-stage heart failure. He caught it in time, all because he heard Mr. Quang's story and didn't want to be next. Let me be very clear here. This isn't about fear-mongering. It's about awareness. We are not fragile. We are experienced. But experience also teaches us one thing. Ignoring patterns leads to regret. There's another morning habit I want to bring up, and it might surprise you. Coughing, especially a mild one that seems to come out of nowhere when you get up. Most people think, it's just my throat adjusting, or maybe I snored too much. But a persistent cough, especially if it comes with breathlessness or happens when lying flat, can sometimes be a sign that fluid is building in the lungs due to heart problems. Think of it like this. When your heart struggles to pump blood efficiently, fluid can back up into the lungs. That fluid can trigger a light cough, especially in the morning when you've been lying flat all night. So, if you've started coughing more in the mornings, or if you feel better when sleeping propped up with pillows, don't just pass it off as allergies or a bad pillow. It could be your body waving a red flag. Now I want to touch on something that's less physical, but just as important: mood and mental state. Have you ever woken up feeling unusually anxious or irritable for no reason? Maybe even a touch of sadness that you couldn't explain. Believe it or not, changes in mood, especially in the early morning, can be tied to hormonal changes, disrupted sleep, or even circulatory issues affecting oxygen flow to the brain. Mr. Quang, in the last few days before his passing, had moments where he was quieter. His usual jokes were fewer, his smiles more subdued. Nobody thought much of it. But emotional withdrawal can sometimes be your body's reaction to discomfort. It doesn't know how to express. The body and mind are not separate. When one suffers silently, the other begins to show signs. And if your mornings start to feel heavier, not just physically, but emotionally, that's worth paying attention to. So what can you do about all this? Start small. Keep a notebook by your bed and jot down how you feel each morning. 1 or 2 words: lightheaded, rested, tight chest, slow, fine. After a week or 2, you'll start to see patterns. Patterns reveal truth. And talk to someone. Don't carry these signs alone. Share them with your spouse, your children, your doctor, anyone who can help you make sense of what's going on. You deserve care. You deserve attention. Not because you're old, but because you're wise enough now to know that health isn't just about medicine. It's about observation and action. I'll leave you with this thought. You are not fragile glass. You are seasoned wood, strong, resilient, but full of stories that show every knot, every grain, every scar. That's what makes you beautiful. But even wood needs care, polish, rest, and protection from the weather. So tomorrow morning when you rise, do so with awareness. Let your body speak. Let your intuition guide you. And remember, the smallest whisper from your body could be the most important message of your life. There's something tender, almost sacred, about the final days of a person's life. Looking back on Mr. Quang's last morning, there was no thunderstorm, no dramatic cry for help. It was quiet, too quiet. He made his usual tea. He fed the birds in the yard. Then he sat down in his chair, closed his eyes, and never opened them again. And that silence, that stillness, was the very thing no one expected. But what if we stopped expecting death to be loud? What if we realized that sometimes the body chooses to go in whispers? Not because it doesn't care, but because it's been trying to tell us things for a while, and we simply weren't trained to listen. Mr. Quang had what doctors later suspected was a silent heart attack. No violent chest pain, no collapse, just symptoms that had been speaking for days. Low energy, shortness of breath, a strange fullness in his chest, and a quiet mood shift. He'd been preparing to leave, not consciously perhaps, but his body was finishing its story. Let me share something that might surprise you. Studies have shown that older adults, especially men, are more likely to have silent heart attacks, not the kind that come with dramatic gasps and clutches at the chest. No, these are the subtle ones. A bit of shoulder discomfort, a nagging jaw ache, a deep, unusual fatigue that stretches over days, a heavy breath during a walk they've taken 100 times before. And that's where we often lose our chance, not because we didn't care, but because we didn't know what to watch for. Let's talk about another common sign that sneaks past people: swelling in the ankles or feet, especially by late afternoon or evening. Mr. Quang wore loose house slippers, so no one noticed. But swelling, especially if it's new, can mean the heart is struggling to circulate blood effectively. Fluid starts to collect in the lower extremities, and you'll notice socks leaving deeper marks or shoes feeling tighter. That's not just aging. That's a warning. His daughter, Lynn, mentioned something heartbreaking. He asked me if his slippers looked tighter last week. I said maybe his feet were tired. I didn't think to ask more. That's how these things slip through. Small comments that we don't realize matter until we look back. And here's one that often goes overlooked: a change in sleep habits. If you find yourself needing to sleep propped up with multiple pillows or waking up gasping for air, it may not just be age or sleep apnea. It might be your heart telling you it can't handle lying flat anymore. When the lungs fill with a little extra fluid, lying flat compresses them, and the body reacts by waking you up. Night after night, it becomes a pattern, one we shouldn't ignore. Now let's talk about something even more subtle: changes in urination. Mr. Quang started going to the bathroom more often at night. Once, twice, sometimes 3 times. Everyone assumed it was just prostate-related, as it often is with older men. But increased nighttime urination can also be a sign that the heart is weak and trying to relieve fluid buildup by using the kidneys during rest. Yes, something as ordinary as bathroom trips can hold secrets about your heart. Isn't that astonishing? How the body, in its own quiet way, keeps trying to balance itself, to stay alive a little longer, even when we don't understand the language it's speaking. There's one last moment I want to share. 2 nights before Mr. Quang passed, he asked his wife a curious question. "Do you think the house feels quieter lately?" She thought he was joking, but looking back, she believes it was his way of saying goodbye. Some say the soul begins to detach in gentle ways, not to scare us, but to help us prepare. A sudden interest in old photographs, talking about people who've already passed, a shift in tone, less about the future, more about the past. These aren't just coincidences, they're clues. Not only about the physical body, but about something deeper, the spirit's journey, the quiet preparation for what's next. But here's what I want you to hear most of all. This isn't a story meant to make you afraid. It's meant to make you aware. Death is not the enemy. Silence is. And the more we learn to listen, to ourselves, to our loved ones, to the bodies we've lived in for decades, the more power we have to delay that final breath. So what can we do today? Start with compassion, not just for others, for yourself. If you feel something isn't right, don't wave it away. Don't say, "I'm just getting old." You are aging, yes, but you are also alive. And life has rhythm, balance, signs. Your body still talks to you, and every strange ache, breath, or sensation is your invitation to pause and ask, "What do I need right now?" Build a support circle. Share your mornings with someone, even if it's just a phone call. How did you sleep? Did you feel tired today? These are not small questions. They're lifelines. Keep a journal. Don't wait for a doctor to ask how long the symptoms have been there. You should know. Write them down. Give them shape. Give them a voice. And remember, your life is not defined by your age or your diagnosis. It's defined by your awareness, your choices, and your courage to speak up when something feels off. That courage might just save your life. In the end, Mr. Quang passed peacefully. But if his story can make even one person say, "I think I'll see a doctor about this," then his life continues in the most powerful way, as a quiet warning that helps others live longer. So tonight, before you go to sleep, do something different. Sit quietly, close your eyes, breathe deep, and ask your body, "How are you doing?" Then listen, not with fear, but with care, because the truth is, you've made it this far for a reason, and there is still so much life, so many laughs, so much love waiting, if we only take a moment to listen before it's too late. If this story touched your heart or reminded you of someone you care about, please consider clicking the like button to help others find it too. And don't forget to subscribe for more heartfelt stories, gentle wisdom, and life-saving insights, made especially for those of us in life's golden years.